What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the Fantasy Files podcast, where we talk about our favorite fantasy series and topics. We are your co-hosts today, Spencer and Gabe. And Gabe, my friend, what are we doing today?
I'm so excited for this one, Spence. Today we're talking about seasons 1 and 2 of the Audible original Impact Winter by Travis Beacham.
That's right. Impact Winter is kind of less of a standard audiobook and more of a production involving a large cast of voice actors and sound effects and stuff like that. And we'll talk about that more in a bit in kind of a spoiler-free section that we'll do pretty briefly before we jump into full spoilers for those who have listened to them already and would like to hear our thoughts on them. But we'll give you plenty of warning before spoiling anything. As always, liking and subscribing helps the channel out a ton and gets us seen by more people like yourself. Also, I don't know about you, Gabe, but whenever I find myself in a vampire apocalypse, I like to support my friends on Patreon, which is exactly what you can do, dear listener. Over on our Patreon page, linked in the description, you'll find downloadable bookmarks and exclusive content that you can't get anywhere else. You can also get your name shouted out in the episode, like Shad Zaman, who's backed us at the Night Angel tier. Thank you so much, man. We should actually be filming our next piece of exclusive content for Patreon very soon for our wonderful patrons over there. But with that being said, let's quickly jump into what we've been reading lately, and then we'll talk about Impact Winter.
I love the way you said that. Impact Winter.
So yeah, I've been enjoying Impact Winter. We'll talk about that more in a second. I've also been addicted to one other series, but I want to hear what you've been reading first, Gabe, before I go on my long diatribe about that.
Well, my reading life as of late has been kind of boring. I haven't picked up anything new, so I've mostly been rereading older series that are ones that I love, like He Who Fights with Monsters and or The Dresden Files. So I'm
Yeah.
just kind of, I guess, in a lull, you could say, but
Yeah.
I am still listening. And then, of course, when something comes up for the podcast, I listen to that.
Yeah.
But yeah, been pretty boring. I also have not had a lot of time to even listen lately,
Right.
so I think that probably has something to do with it. But
Yeah, that's fair. I I was kind of in that slump recently too. And I was going through a period of time where I was just like, I honestly like didn't really want to read anything for a little while there. I was just like, I don't really like there's nothing that piques my interest. There's some books that are coming out later in the year that I'll get into at that time. But for now, I'm like, there's really nothing that's catching my interest. There's been some stuff that's on my wish list, but I don't really feel like reading it yet. I feel like
yeah,
I add all of this stuff to my wish list and then I'm like, I need something to read. And I'll go to my wish list and then be like, yeah, but I don't want to read any of this stuff. And then it's like, why did I put it on my wish list then? But with that, we've talked about it a couple times on the podcast, and definitely in my Saturday morning or Sunday morning videos. I was playing Hogwarts Legacy, or I am. I'm completely. I'm like well over 50 hours in Hogwarts Legacy, and playing that game made me just fall in love with this world, just this whole like Hogwarts and everything surrounding it, and just all of the like magic and the characters and stuff. And obviously, the characters in Hogwarts Legacy are not the same as the books because it takes place like 200 years before the books. But it it really got me thinking that Harry Potter has been a series that is sorely lacking from my fantasy repertoire. And let me tell you, Gabe, I started that first book maybe 2 or 3 weeks ago, and I was literally hooked from the first, like not even the first chapter, like half of the first chapter. and I was like, I'm gonna read all of these, and I
That's
have
awesome.
been.
That's awesome.
So as of right now, I've just started book 6, and so I have book 6, and then book 7 is the last one,
Whoa.
and I'm not kidding you. It's almost putting me into like a like anxiety fit because I don't know what I'm gonna do with myself after these
When it's
books are
over.
over, dude.
Yeah.
I'm just like I have fallen in love with these books so much. Like I would not be surprised in the slightest if I finished the 7th book and then just did a reread and just
Yeah.
went straight back to the beginning
It's
and read
awesome.
through them again.
I love it.
Because dude, I love them. I love them so much. Like this was not on my bingo card for this year. Like I
Yeah.
did not expect to fall in love with Harry Potter,
Yep.
and I am just so completely enthralled with this world and the story, and I love like the beginning of every book where they're like in the real world for a while and just kind of like back at home for the summer, and then they go back to Hogwarts, and that kind of initial like period of time of them getting into the flow and going to the new classes and the new teachers and everything. I love that whole part of the book. The middle part of the book is usually pretty good too, but then my favorite is also the end where everything kind of comes to
Yep.
like a massive climax and there's some big battle or some big like mystery that gets solved or whatever. But yeah, man, I have just completely fallen in love with these characters. Without a doubt, when I finish the 7th book, I'm going to go back through and watch all of the movies, like
Nice.
back to back to
Yeah.
back to back. Because I just want so much more Harry Potter content. And now that I'm reading these, it actually blows my mind that she hasn't made any more books in
Yeah.
it, or at least in the Harry Potter universe. I don't know if she's written anything else, but um, I'm really surprised that there's not a series with like Harry's kid or like Harry as an adult or something. Like that would sell
So well.
millions.
Yeah.
Like that's an
On day
easy,
one, dude. Yeah.
yeah.
That's an easy $200 million in your pocket. Come on.
Yeah, for real. I'm just like, how has she not made any
Yeah.
more of them? But on the other hand, it is kind of nice because she created what is considered pretty much a perfect series, and it's wrapped up with a bow, and people liked the ending, and people liked the whole journey. And
Yep.
so it makes sense that maybe she's like, I'm gonna check out while I'm ahead
Mm-hmm.
and kind of cash in a little bit. But at the same time, I'm just like, please give me more Harry Potter books. Like, please just give me like 30 more Harry Potter
Yeah,
books.
for
That's
real.
all I want right now. So so yeah, I'm very much enjoying that. I would not be surprised in the slightest. Matter of fact, I think it's almost guaranteed that one of the Harry Potter books will be my number one for this year at the end of the year. I think at this rate, I just don't know how there's anything else. Like I don't I don't know how anything else stacks up
Achievement
to it.
unlocked. Harry
Yeah.
Potter fanboy.
Yeah, exactly. I'm looking online for like Harry Potter decor. I'm like, is there any cool like Harry Potter stuff I can put on my desk?
Next
And
thing
I
you know, for Halloween, you're gonna get the thrall, and you're gonna go get one of those wands.
yeah, dude, I was looking at I'm like, oh, maybe I could get like a really cool like replica wand and like
They
have it in
sell
like a
a
little
shit ton of cool
stand.
ones,
And
dude.
yeah, and like
Yeah.
just set it up on my shelf. I think that'd be really
In
cool.
Disneyland, they have like at the Harry Potter whatever exhibit thing, and they actually
Yeah,
have the store with
the
thousands
wands
and
and
thousands of wands that you can choose from and actually
oh, dude,
purchase. It's
that's
pretty
so
cool.
cool.
Yeah.
That's so awesome. Yeah, that's exact. I would love a wand, or I would love if it wasn't. See, I need something that's like small and subtle, so
Yeah.
that if anybody like comes over, like maybe they see the
Yeah.
wand or maybe they see the thing and they're like, "Oh, that's cool."
Yep.
But let me tell you, when I was digging around on the internet today, I
Oh
found
God.
a what is it called? not the Firebolt, but the 2000, the Swift, the first broom that he has, the whatever it is, 2000, Nimbus
Nimbus,
2000.
yeah. That
And
sounds right.
there was a replica of that, like a full-size replica, and it showed people who like mounted it on their wall. And I'm like, oh, I want it so
I need to
bad,
do that.
but at the same time, it was like $5,000.
Yeah,
But at
oh
the
yeah.
same time, I'm like, dude, if anybody came over and just saw that I had a Nimbus 2000 on my wall, they'd
Like,
be
all
like,
right, okay.
you're the biggest dork. Like, I would never ever get laid. But but like I definitely considered it. I was like, that's cool as fuck.
That is cool.
I think what I'm gonna land on is they sell, it's like a little pedestal, and then there's a little kind of like a glass like bell
Mhm.
jar that goes over it, and inside it is the golden
Snitch.
snitch,
Yeah.
and it's got its like wings out, and
Cool.
I don't think it like moves or anything, but it's like
No,
really
still, that'd
cool
be
like
cool though.
replica.
Yeah.
I'm like, that'd be cool, just like a little glass thing with like the
Yep.
golden snitch in it. I'm like, I
You
think
keep your
that's a cool.
dork level at like 8% instead of
Yeah,
60, you know?
right, yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. And also if somebody comes over who I think might judge me for it, I could like put it in a drawer or something.
Yeah.
It's not like this massive thing that I have to hide in a closet, and then there's still like these hooks on my wall. They're like, oh, what goes on the hooks? I don't want to talk about it.
That's awesome.
So yeah, I might get something like that. I was looking at a lot of stuff because I'm like, yeah, I'm all in now, man. I'm all
Hell
in.
yeah.
So
Hell yeah. I do have one more question for you though about the Harry Potter.
yeah.
And that is, how is the voice acting? Because I've never listened to them. I've only
So
read.
it it took me a while to get used to it. He's good. The
Hmm.
only thing that he's not super great at, but he does get way better. Get like the
Yeah.
like you know how the Dresden Files, like he got
Yep.
significantly better as it went
Progression, yeah.
on. The first like 3 books or something, Hermione's voice was terrible.
Oof.
Yeah, like Hermione's voice was like, I can't even do it, but he made her sound like almost like whiny,
Oh.
and she would be like, Harry, and it's, oh dude, it just annoyed the shit out
Yeah.
of me every time. But I think like overall, other than Hermione's voice, he actually sounds a lot like RJ Bailey.
Huh. Cool.
And so for the most part, he's really good.
Yeah.
But it's just for some reason those first few books and Hermione's voice, it was just like nails on a chalkboard. But she didn't really talk a whole lot in those first few books, so I would notice it every now and then. And now that I'm in the 6th book, I don't even like he's gotten way better about it.
Nice.
And speaking of which, so I found out only recently that you've read the Harry Potter books. You've read them all several times.
Yep.
And
It's been years and years since I've
right,
done it, but I have read them.
right, yeah.
Yeah.
And I when I started reading them, I was gonna be like, Gabe, you gotta read Harry Potter, because I thought you hadn't.
Mm.
And so then when you told me you had, I was like, okay, we have to do Harry Potter on
Yeah.
the
I think
podcast,
that'd
like
be cool.
obviously,
Yeah, for
yeah.
sure. I think that'd be
So
really cool.
so yeah, I mean, if you want to start reading them, like
Yeah.
they're all in my library. So
All right. Sweet.
yeah,
I'll take the hint.
yeah, feel free to start reading them, and I'm happy to talk about them whenever, because
Awesome.
yeah, I'm just completely enthralled by them. All right, well, enough about the boy who lived. Let's talk about Impact Winter.
Yeah.
So let's do you know what, we're not going to do this for too long, but I think for the people that are here and are wondering what Impact Winter is, because I don't think it's widespread enough for people to be like, oh yeah, I want to tune in for the Impact Winter
It should
episode.
be.
It should be,
Should be.
definitely.
Yeah.
But I think that it's still kind of flying under the radar a little bit. So let's talk a little bit about what Impact Winter is. And one of the things that I think is really cool about it is, you and I primarily read audiobooks.
Hmm.
Matter of fact, I think you pretty much
Pretty much
100%
only.
read
Yeah.
audiobooks. I'm probably like 90% audiobooks. I usually have like some sort of physical book that I'm reading at any
Yeah.
given time. But with that, you usually get a narrator who is just a guy who is, they may do like all sorts of different voices, and it may have like a very high production quality, but it's one guy reading you the story, like the same words that are on the page. This is more of like an adaptation. Like this is more of a almost like a movie. They're taking something that I think Impact Winter was originally a comic book series,
Mm.
and they're adapting that for an audio format. And so what we see with Impact Winter, and I'll talk about what the story is actually about in a minute, but I want to get this across first,
Yep.
is that what we're seeing here is when you tune into this audio production, you are essentially listening to a performance. There are several cast members. There are at least like 10 to 15 different cast members for these books. They all play a different character. There are sound effects, and you're not getting a narration like Darcy walked into the castle and she hit the punching bag and she trained or whatever.
Yep.
You're hearing the sound effects of her walking into the castle, and you're hearing maybe her inner monologue or her talking to people in the hallway, and then you're hearing the sound effect of her hitting the punch bag and training with her sword or whatever. And so it takes a little bit to kind of realize that. And I think when I first listened to it, I don't think I even noticed right away that I wasn't getting a constant narration,
Yeah.
because I was so immersed in the way that they designed the sound and the way that they told the story through this medium. And I think that all of the sound effects and all of the dialogue that you get is exactly enough for what you need to understand what is happening in any given scene. Would you agree?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, the sound production, because we've listened to other, movie in your mind audiobooks that have been not so great, but
Yeah.
this one especially, just as you were saying, you could just be given a character not saying anything and just moving, and you could
Yeah.
almost paint a perfect picture of what this character's walking on, the direction she's walking,
Yeah.
where his or teammate, it's coming from your left ear. She's kind of on the left behind her because you can
Yep.
hear the other teammate walking, whatever else. And so you can really paint an awesome, very vivid picture in your mind just based
Yeah.
off the sounds alone, which is pretty sweet.
Yeah, exactly. And even like you kind of mentioned it there with like if they're just walking, let's say they're walking in from the snowy outside into
Hmm.
the castle or something, you'll hear like snowy footsteps, and then
And
those will
onto
change
concrete. Yeah.
to concrete. Yeah, it's
Yep.
so cool.
It's
It's so
crazy.
cool what they're able
Crazy.
to do with it. And you mentioned it there as well, the kind of dynamic sound
That's right. There's
where
there's depth. You can tell when something's far away and when they're
yes,
moving closer, or when they're closer and moving far away, and they make it very easy to do so. It's not, you don't have to think about it. It's just
right,
like you in a situation would be walking. If somebody came in the front door, they're coming in, right?
right.
Just kind of a second nature thing. They really used our senses to be able to paint that picture.
100%. And I think that's so cool because if you look at like the action scenes, I think I went through my first cup when I first read the or listened to the first season of Impact Winter. It took me a couple of action scenes to realize that I wasn't getting any like narration of this
Mhm.
person came to the left and this person moved to the right.
Yeah.
But with both headphones in, like you said, you can hear someone swinging their sword to the left, and you hear a crunch, so that you know they hit somebody. And then depending on whose voice is like ah or whatever, you know that that person got hit. And then at some point it'll tell you, like the character will mention, oh, they sliced my arm or whatever. And so there's never any confusion really as to what's happening. There's only been maybe two times in both of the seasons where I had to like rewind and be like, okay, let me make sure I understood what just happened. But those were very few and far between.
Yeah.
As far as like action scenes and dialogue and stuff goes. So with that being said, now that you know kind of what this is as a product, let's talk about the story a little bit. So we have it's in the near future, and if you've played The Last of Us, it's kind of a Last of Us
Yep.
situation where some sort of apocalypse has happened, but instead of zombies, it is vampires. And what the vampires have done is they brought this comet or meteor. I forget
Meteor,
what the
yep.
difference is between them.
Meteor, yeah.
Meteor. They brought this down, and it essentially like somehow blocked out the sun, and so they're in kind of like an eternal
Perpetual winter, yeah.
perpetual winter, yeah. And that allows the vampires to kind of move at will, more or
Yep.
less. So you have kind of these stranded bands of humans that are all over the place, and they can't quite get to each other. They're all kind of in their own like encampments, because it's very hard to travel from one place to the next, because at some point you're going to run into a group of vampires that are able to move freely and move much faster than you.
Yeah.
So our main character is Darcy, and she's kind of the golden child of this fortress. She's kind of like a team lead, and she goes out and she'll try to get supplies, and she'll like early on we see her and her friend Felix, and they're like in a kind of like a watchtower, and they're like watching out to see if any vampires are coming over the horizon. Basically, their job is to protect the castle. And then you have her sister Hope, who is also in the castle, and she's training to become like her sister.
Yeah.
And so throughout that, we get a lot of kind of interpersonal drama between the people in the castle, and how they feel about vampires. And there's some people that show up to the castle that are pretending to be humans but are actually vampires, and the people in the castle have to decide how they feel about that, because these people aren't acting like vampires. They're acting very much like humans, and they're not trying to really kill anybody.
Yep.
So there is a cool kind of theme in that first season about what makes somebody a monster, like.
Yeah.
And I think the theme continues to be about humans can be just as monstrous.
It all comes back to your human traits, right?
Yeah.
Even though they're not, it's greed and power and envy and all those things that can make somebody do something bad.
Right. Yeah, so it's interesting to kind of follow that theme, I think, and to kind of see who the bad guys really are, because maybe it's not who you expect at the beginning. So yeah, do you have anything else to add about that? Kind of stranded humans, vampires, eternal winter?
No, yeah, I think that's pretty much it. That's what you would want to know going into the podcast anyways.
Yeah. So yeah, this is definitely a high recommend from us. I think I'm interested to see how Gabe or what Gabe thought of the second season, but I can say that we both unanimously loved the first season.
Yes.
And I think the first season especially is a damn near perfect story. You could probably listen to it, get to the end, and not even go on. Like it works as a standalone, is what I'm saying. But that being said, you should go on to the second season.
Totally.
But yeah, I just think that this is a really cool idea. I think that we don't get too many vampire books that are more serious like this. Like, these vampires are not like Twilight vampires. They're more like
real kind of stokers almost.
Yeah, like some of them are really scary, and then you have some other ones that are able to be a little bit more human. But I think for the most part, they take the idea of what a vampire is very, very seriously and more grounded. And then I guess the last thing I'll say for the spoiler-free section is that there is music in these. And at first I thought I had it wrong. In a prior podcast episode, I had said that it was licensed music, and it's not. They're able to get around the licensed music thing by making a cover. So they are recording their own version of these popular songs. So you get like a really great Elliott Smith song in the first season that I'll talk about in spoilers. In the second season, you get like California Dreamin' and all sorts of other really great songs, and they always make the scene. Like every time one of those songs kicks in, it is just the perfect
Yep.
song for that moment, and I love it. I love it so much. If you guys have seen any of our Dresden Files episodes, then you've probably heard me rave about the music that they put in at the beginning and the end of the Dresden Files audiobooks. And this is that like times 20. Like there's at least in every single chapter, if not twice in every chapter, there's some sort of song that most people would probably recognize, I think.
Yep.
So yeah, anyway, big recommend from us. If you haven't read Impact Winter, please do so.
Do it.
It is a fantastic production, and I think that there's really no way that you won't have a great time with it,
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah, I think anybody could read these,
Yeah.
you know, separate from their normal reading. Science fiction would love it. Sci-fi would love it.
Yeah.
Sorry, same thing. Fantasy.
Right. Oh, yeah. And I think that even for people, I think that overall, it's such a good story that it even transcends fantasy and sci-fi.
Yeah.
Like, I think that if you're into Stephen King, you would probably love
Yep.
these. Or, if you're into like mysteries or whatever, I think that this is still a good time. It really is like a movie. Like, it's like sitting down for a movie pretty much. Oh, and I guess I'll also mention the books or the audio productions are about 4 to 5 hours each. So they're not that long. I'm sure Gabe has a different opinion on this. I would not recommend listening to it on like 1.5 speed. I was listening to it on 1.2, and when I tried to turn it up past that, because of all the sound effects and the music and stuff, it got a little bit jumbled for me.
Yeah.
But I don't know. What were you listening to these on, Gabe?
Yeah, I think I did do 1.5, and I could see exactly what you mean by it would get jumbled. There was a couple times where I would have to go back. But I only did that because I was trying to meet the deadline.
Right.
Because I only have a, set 30 minutes twice a day that I can really truly listen and dedicate to only doing that.
Right.
Yeah.
So yeah, guys, I would say if you have the time, I would say 1.2 is probably a perfect speed.
Yep.
At 1.2, I felt like I could hear all the sound effects, I could hear all the music and the voices and everything, and it wasn't jumbled or anything. I don't know. I wouldn't even say that 1.0 is slow or anything, but I think I'm just so used to listening at a faster clip
Yeah.
that I
For
had
us,
to
it
bump
seems
it up.
slow. Yeah.
So yeah, that's pretty much it. High recommend for Impact Winter. Please go check it out. They're both free on Audible.
Yeah.
So if you have a subscription to Audible, they're completely free. Matter of fact, they might even be on YouTube. I think I saw them over there on YouTube as well. So all right. So let's talk spoilers, Gabe.
Spoilers.
And we're going to give our spoiler warning. These are for the people that have read both seasons 1 and 2. We're going to start with season 1, and then we're going to go into season 2. So I guess if you've only listened to season 1, you could technically listen to this and shut it off when we get to season 2. But I'm not going to shy away from spoilers from season 2, but they might come up, they might not. So you're taking a risk. But anyway, this is your spoiler warning here in 3, 2, 1. You've been warned. All right, Gabe. So talking about season 1 here.
Season 1.
What did you think of this first book? What did you think of, we got our character list here.
Yep.
And we got Darcy and her sister Hope.
Yep.
We got Darcy's kind of love interest, Felix. And then we have some other guys. Do you have any specific thoughts on the first season or any of these characters or anything?
Yeah, I mean, stuff that kind of popped out to me, as you said, it is pretty much a perfect story. So it's, I think it will be beloved by all who read. But I think I kind of like the idea of, us starting off, already well into this apocalypse,
Yes,
and
good
and
point.
yeah, and starting at kind of this secure compound that's hidden underneath the castle. Not supposed to be really public knowledge. It gave me like kind of Fallout vibes, like
Hmm.
Fallout 3 vibes. They're in a
Yeah,
vault, which is pretty cool. Um, and yeah, the Darcy, of course, is a badass. Like Spencer said, she's the one that gets to go out and do supply runs or go to watchtowers, get fuel, whatever needs to be done. Um, and so her travels out, of course, is where we start to see the story open up a lot more. And later on, we
yeah.
get Penelope who comes in, and Rook and all that stuff. So I don't know how in depth you want to get on this first one, but
Sure,
uh
yeah. Well, I want to jump off the point you just made because I didn't
yeah,
even think about that until just now, but that is something that I did enjoy about the first book is because I feel like with any other series we would have gotten some sort of like origin story as to, the day the meteor came down and
yep,
like and we
yep,
do see some of that later on. But, I liked that it did kind of open up with, we've it's been like this for years now,
yeah.
and
Like
we've
they've been
all
living there and doing their best for a long time.
right, and like we've all had to adapt
Yep,
and, get used to the fact that this is just how life is now. And we luckily we found this castle that kind of protects us, and we have a good, militia here, and we're able to feed ourselves and protect ourselves. And honestly, I kind of think that they should have just stayed there because now
yeah,
everything has kind of gone to shit in season
yeah,
two. Um,
yeah, for real.
and
They would
I'm
have been
like,
just fine.
yeah, I'm like, I
Yeah,
kind of miss everybody just like being at the castle and just surviving.
yeah,
But yeah, I think I really liked that whole opening segment, especially with Darcy and Felix, and seeing them like be friends and like how they became friends, and just them, they're not like together yet, but they're very flirty and they're
yep,
very like aware that they like each other.
yeah.
And them at the very beginning there, they're kind of in that like watchtower, and they have to stay the night there, so like he opens up this sleeping bag, and they kind of they're
They have to
like,
share their warmth, right? It's too
yeah,
cold.
they have to share their warmth. And he's like he's like, how do you want to do this? And she's like, well, like spoons in a drawer, just like go like this. He's like, okay. And she's like, no, 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 my front to your back, because I don't want to feel your boner in the middle of the
Yeah,
night.
yeah,
And so I love those little moments between them, just those little, it just
yep,
felt like very real. It felt like something that would happen. You know what I
for
mean? Like
sure.
I'm sure if any of us were in the same situation with
Yeah,
a friend that was a girl, she'd be like, "No, you're gonna face that way." It's like,
that's
okay,
right.
okay,
Yep, you're like, fair enough, fair
yeah.
enough.
So I don't know. I love those moments. I love that that Hope. If I remember correctly from the first season, there was like a book or something she really liked, and
Yep,
or maybe it was Felix that really liked the
I think
book.
it was
And
Felix. Yeah, it was like
okay, yeah.
yeah,
And then Hope kind of had like this boyfriend, but nobody trusted him. He was
yep,
kind of this like kind of nasty dude, and he kept
rebel
like,
little kid. Yeah,
yeah, and like he kept like drawing this tattoo of like a vampire on his hand, and
yep,
people were like, that's so like distasteful. And
yeah,
I loved all the stuff in the castle, and just all the different the way that the different characters kind of played off each other.
yep,
um and then we have kind of our, I guess like one of our big bads for the story, and that is Jep. So we have Jep, who is kind of the surrogate father to Darcy and Hope, and he was either dating or married to their mother when the meteor came down
Mm,
and the mom died. And so he's kind of watched out for them this whole time. And we get some twisty turnies with
yep.
him as the story goes on. Do you have any thoughts about Jeff and kind of the person that he
He,
turned into?
yeah, yeah. You're talking about Jep was the he's kind of like a higher up in the castle or in the thing. Yeah.
Yeah, and he ended up
Yep. Like
he
kid
like
or
hates vampires. Like
yeah.
yeah,
Yes. Okay. Yeah.
yeah,
No, no, I think it was a great, because there's always got to be, like you said, he's technically would be the big bad of the story.
yeah,
I knew it was coming, when it happened to Darcy, and then of course, like, Hope goes out and gets, I can't remember the sequence really.
sure.
I listened to this a while back, but Darcy gets turned into a vampire by Rook.
Yeah,
She comes back and somehow either Felix finds out or she meets Felix.
yeah,
I think Hope finds out, and that's how
right.
he finds out, right?
I think so, something
Okay.
like that.
Yeah.
It's been like
Anyways,
a few weeks since I've
yep, he
listened to
finds
it.
out and he uses one of them, either Felix or Hope, to like lure her out.
Yes. Yes.
And he's there like it was Felix. He's there threatening to kill Felix.
Right. Yes, that's right. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
if she doesn't, come around. And I was just like, holy shit, dude, like
Yeah.
that's fucking crazy.
Yeah.
Does
And
he?
like pretty
Yeah.
much his own daughter too.
Yeah. Oh
Like
yeah.
it doesn't matter that she's basically a daughter to him. He just hates
Yeah,
vampires.
and she's like standing there talking to him like I'm okay. Like, dude, I'm
Yeah.
not like those I'm not a normal vampire. I'm not
Right.
fucking psychotic.
She's like, I'm not trying to hurt you. I'm not trying to
Yeah,
hurt anyone
like
in
I
the
want to help you
castle.
guys.
Yeah.
But
And
nope.
and and that was kind of one of the cool parts of the story because you think about it and it's like, okay, if you lived in this apocalypse and you watched all of your friends and family die at the
Be
hands
tortured
of
and murdered and eaten. Yeah,
yeah,
for sure.
and you've never met a vampire that is, an okay person. They're all like these monsters
Yeah.
and they all lie and try to be like
Yep.
sneaky and stuff. You can kind of understand where he's coming from. And I think that that's why he's such a well written villain, is because at the core of it, fundamentally, you get it. Like you understand why he's so,
Hmm.
hostile towards them. But at the same time, we also have Darcy's point of view,
Yep.
and we see that she's not like some of these other vampires. And not only that, but even before and this was another really great part of the story, it's such a good arc, was before Darcy becomes a vampire, we get Penelope showing up with
Yes.
her friend,
Yes.
and
Yep.
they're both pretending to be human.
Yeah.
And they go into that room and he like turns on the lights and they're like, ah, and like it hurts them or whatever. He's like, you're vampires. And so he kills one of them. Her friend dies.
Yep.
And then they take her basically into like a torture room.
Yeah, to start like doing tests on her and
Oh
like
my,
ripping her organs out and shit.
oh dude, that was
Yeah.
so,
Fucked up.
so brutal because she can't die from that. So they're just like, well, let's open her up and see what's in there.
Yeah.
And man, that was so, so brutal. And then you even get Darcy coming in and
Oh,
she
dude.
yeah.
Oh my God. She fucking grabs her heart and grips it and like says some just,
Yeah,
I fucking hate you. And she doesn't kill her right there. But could you
right.
imagine, dude?
Oh,
Holy
dude.
crap.
Yeah, she had her hand like around her heart and she's like, "Don't fuck with my sister,"
Yeah.
and like, "I hate you," and
Yeah.
like, "You vampires shouldn't exist." And so she was kind of on Jeff's side. Like she
Mm-hmm.
was very much, on the same
Oh,
side of
super
him. Yeah.
anti-vampire. Yeah.
And so then it's funny for her to, because she's even like, I think at some point there's a conversation between her and Hope or her and someone else. And they're like, well, if you were to die and you had, the chance to become a vampire, what would you choose? And she's like, I would die like a human is supposed to. Like I'm not
Mm.
going to turn to become a vampire. But then later when Rook pretty much kills her and like offers her the chance, in that moment where she's actually about to die, she decides to take the vampirism,
Yep.
because I kind of feel like that's what anybody would do
For sure.
in
Totally.
that situation.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like
Absolutely.
when you're faced with death staring at you, you know,
Yeah.
it's not a simple thing to be
Nope.
like, no, I'll just die.
Yeah.
Um
No.
so then she has this whole arc where she kind of like hates herself, and she's like, I'm not going to feed on anybody, and Rook is like, you have to feed, like you are
Yeah.
going to go
You'll lose control and
crazy.
you will murder people.
Yeah, like you will become one of the bad
Yeah.
vampires if you don't feed. And so luckily she finds some dude who's like trying to, I can't say the word on YouTube, but he's trying to assault her pretty
Yep.
much. And she feeds on him. It was either her or it was like another girl that he was doing it to, I forget.
No, I think it was Darcy.
Yeah,
I
like
think that
wasn't she like laying there or something, and he,
she was just walking along the road and it was a guy in,
right.
in a truck with
Oh, that's
some,
right.
and she was like, do you have any food? And they do some
Her,
weird stuff. And
yeah.
I think before that, because down in the cellars of Rook's place, which is her, creator vampire or whatever, they actually had one of the people that convinced Hope. I think it was the guy that convinced Hope to leave. And you remember when they left and they were all taking acid and they were like at the church
Yeah,
and
yeah, yeah.
shit. So I think she like
That's right.
was
She, yeah.
yeah, she didn't feed on that guy and then left, and that's when she found that dude trying to solicit her.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then the other really cool part of that too is, so that guy is in the cellar of Rook's estate,
Mm,
and she's like, I'm not going to mess with him. I'm not going to mess with him. I'm
yep.
not going to mess with him. And then later in the story, like near the end, she decides, I'm going to let him go, and I'm going to
Yeah.
let him like run away. And so she tells him to run, and it's not really made super clear if this was the plan all along or if
Yeah.
she just wanted to like chase him or what. But she lets him go and he starts running, and he gets pretty far away, but she's there in like a second,
Yep.
and she's like, I'm so sorry, I changed my mind, and she
Yeah.
kills him
Yep.
and feeds on him. And dude, that was such a good scene, because it was like, it shows kind of the duality of what it means to be a vampire. Like Darcy, as far as vampires go, she's a pretty like good like human
Yep.
equivalent vampire,
Yeah.
but there is the other side of her where she has to feed, and there's something in her that likes the chase and
Yep.
likes to hunt. And so when she let him go, she was like, I gotta chase him, like, it's like a dog running after a
Yep.
rabbit. And so I thought that was a really really cool scene, and that guy was a total dick
Fuck
anyways.
yeah, he was, dude.
But yeah, those were some great scenes. I really like the ones where she really really cut loose,
Yep.
and when she like learns to like meditate and kind of go into like that trance or
Yep.
whatever. That was pretty cool. And then she has like a pretty great sex scene with Brooke,
Yep.
where
Shower sex scene, baby.
yeah, and I loved the whole like there was there
Rook
was like
was like Rook was like he's like, no, I'm she kept advancing on him and he's like, no, no, no. And then she gets in the shower, she's like, all right, well the shower door's open. And
yeah,
Rook is like, fuck, and goes in
yeah.
there. And then he even writes in a letter, I think that I can't remember who, but he even writes like, my base desires, something about my desires, and I
Yeah,
failed again or whatever else. Uh
exactly.
yeah.
Yeah, that was kind of, I don't know if cool is the right word or what, but I just love,
It was interesting.
yeah, I
Yeah.
liked the tension there, because he was like, no, you are my student and you're
Yeah.
the person that I turned, and
Yep.
I like can't do that with you.
Yeah.
But she like just like drops her clothes, and she's like, all
I'll be
right,
in the
well,
shower.
I'll be in the shower.
Yep.
It's
Like,
so
damn.
good.
All right. Another person
Um,
I just want to mention really quick that's not on your list is Whisper.
Yes, I was just about to
She's
bring
my
Whisper up. Tell me
absolute
about
favorite
Whisper.
character, dude. I love her
Ah,
so, so much.
yeah.
It's unreal. I don't, and I could, dude, I couldn't even tell you. Like listening to the first one again, like I was just drawn to her because she's like so like,
She's so
you know,
different.
she's so different and she's super old, but she's still kind of a kid, right?
Yeah.
Like I'm pretty sure
She's like
she's
in a
in the,
kid's body, yeah.
yeah, in a kid's body. And she just like super helpful. And I don't know, something about her, but she was my favorite character.
Yeah. She was just
Yeah.
like so like respectful to
Respectful and
everybody
just like
and
understanding of like the urges that Darcy was having and like just trying to like be
help.
so helpful. Like
Yeah.
she's like, I know how you feel. I've been there. Like, let me show you what to do. It's
Yeah.
pretty cool.
Yeah. That was great, especially because Rook on the other side of it, like he was
He's very like,
training her, but
yeah,
he wasn't like emotionally supportive,
yeah. No,
you
it's like
know?
having your, yeah, this is gonna be a weird analogy, but it's like having your stepdad like try and show you something, and then like, like a real dad trying to show you something.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, like Rook is just a little bit more detached, like
Yep.
he's more in it for like the long game, and Whisper is more and maybe it's part of her being in a child's body that she has more of
Yeah.
that like empathy and emotional attachment to people. Um like maybe they kind of get frozen where they are where they're at initially emotionally. Um but yeah, I loved Whisper. I thought she was super cool, very like Wednesday Adams
Yep.
kind of character.
Totally.
And yeah, I really really liked her. So yeah, one of my favorite moments was when Hope goes out with her friends
Yeah.
and they're like at this campsite and they're wanting to basically become vampires
Yeah.
because that was Hope's whole thing. She's like, why would I stay a human when the world isn't fit for humans anymore?
Yep.
Like the world is meant for vampires. And so they all go out to become vampires, but I don't think that they necessarily know how you become one.
No.
And so the vampires they run into are just going to tear them apart. They're not going to take the time to like
No.
turn
Yeah.
them.
Yep.
And so it's this great scene where Hope, she like they're at the campfire and the vampires kind of start to encroach on them, and she decides that she doesn't want it, and
Yep.
she runs to the trunk of the car.
Yeah, well, she
And
she asked that boy like, "Word, give me the keys. Like, give me the
yeah,
keys. I'm done with this." And he throws the keys,
yeah,
just like hides them. And so then she goes and hides in the car.
right, yeah. And so she's like in this trunk or whatever, and you're hearing all of the sounds of
Yeah,
people dying violently.
yeah,
And that's when this Elliott Smith song comes in that's covered by some female vocalist. And I love this song. Like this song is legitimately like one of my favorite songs of all time. And so I'm gonna share my sound real quick, and we're just gonna listen to this little snippet.
You can't just leave me.
oh, that clicking, dude.
Yeah.
Oh,
No! Hope! Help me!
Oh, her friends. It's just such a great, like, quiet moment
absolutely.
where all this death is
Violence.
happening,
Yeah,
and just like this really kind of sweet song is playing over it. Like, man, like that song is just, it's so good. There's some lyrics in the song. I'm not going to take the time to pull them up, but if you look at the lyrics, it's about the song is about keeping someone too close, like almost
Mm,
like suffocatingly
yeah.
close. And it kind of fits. You know what I mean? Like while
Yep.
these vampires are like eating someone, and like one of the lyrics is um something your will, I'll keep you still. And
Mm,
it's just like the subject material of what's happening on screen and the vibe of the song
yeah.
are so different, but meanwhile the lyrics actually fit it really well.
Yeah.
And oh man, I
Yep.
just thought it was such a fantastic song to use in that moment. And for anybody watching, or for you, Gabe, I would highly recommend going and checking out the original song, because it's a really good song. Between the Bars by Elliott Smith.
Sweet.
So then we get to kind of wrap that up. We get all the action stuff. We get, Hope, or no, it's Whisper that gets taken, right?
Mm-hmm.
And Darcy has to go like save her, and she
Wait,
and
does Whisper gets taken by Jep?
yes, yeah,
Okay. Okay. Yeah.
she's, or no, is it? It's either Jep or
Because I thought
bad vampire,
yeah,
Calistrata.
Calistrata. Maybe it
I
was. Oh, it was. Yeah, you're right. It was
Yeah,
Calistrata. Yeah.
yeah.
Okay.
I think she gets taken by her,
Yep.
and Darcy has to go and get her back. And
Yep.
yeah, I love the moment when Darcy kills Calistrata. I forget how Jep dies. I can't remember if it was Darcy's doing or if Hope did it. I think
Hope did it. Hope shot him.
Hope shot him.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, that's
In
what
the
I
gut.
thought.
Yeah,
Yeah,
or in the chest.
right. And that's just one of those satisfying moments where it's
Yep.
like, finally
Fuck
somebody
you, dude.
fucking got
Yes.
this
Thank
guy.
goodness.
Yeah. So then we get the very end of the book. And I guess before this, I'll say another like kind of favorite through line of the story was Darcy and Felix. And there's this moment where like he goes to like this gas station, and she's there, and she's a vampire, and she's just like, talking to him in his head.
Yep.
Because doesn't she bites him, right?
Yeah.
Or she like harms him in some way, and then she has to like try to heal him, or
Yep. Yeah. She bites him in the neck and rips
yeah,
his neck open.
right. And so then she uses his voice to call
And tell them
on the
exactly where he
radio,
is. Yeah.
and be like, come get him. But yeah, I love that whole scene, because I can't remember if it's that scene or if it's one later on where he's like, he basically tells her like, I've always loved you, like I've always felt this way about you.
Yeah.
And she basically tells him like quiet now, we can't, like I know, but we can't deal with that right now. And so then we get to the very end of the book, and Felix dies. I forget, I think Jep kills him or something.
Yep.
Right? But before he dies, it leads you to believe that Darcy has buried him and basically said goodbye to
Yep.
him. And so she tells Hope to go back to the castle, and Hope leaves. And the very last scene we get is Felix coming up out of the grave, and Darcy and him are together, and I think they kiss or whatever. Yeah. And dude, it like one of my favorite endings.
Warmed my heart, dude.
Dude, I was so glad to see that he was alive and that they were together. I'm like, oh shit, now he's a vampire. So I had really high hopes for the second one, and same thing I was kind of talking about with like Night Angel Nemesis recently. I went into that book thinking that I knew what was going to be coming.
Mm-hmm.
And then we get into season 2, and it was not what I thought we were getting.
Yep.
So
that's certainly how I felt about season 2 of this.
Yeah. So before I bias you with my thoughts, what's your unfiltered overall opinion of season 2?
So I would say like overall, minus my little tidbits here and there, I would say that it again, it just wasn't the way that I thought it would go.
Yeah.
Um, I love the adventure aspect because we get a couple different adventures from different people going on at pretty much the same time.
Right.
So it was fun to track, Penelope and Lydia on their thing, trying to find Hope.
And Hope and Rook.
Yep, Hope and Rook, and then of course, Darcy on her mission to,
Yeah.
do whatever she needs to do. So I love that. There were a couple times though where I was listening fast, but I didn't feel like it was because I misheard something.
Sure.
But there were a couple times where I was confused as to like why this character was here,
Yes.
and so it was hard for me to like remember like, wait, is that Lydia or Hope, or why is Lydia with
Lydia and Hope
Penelope?
sounded very similar.
Yeah, yeah, and so it took me a little bit of thinking to figure out
Yeah.
who is where.
Right.
Once I did that, it was good. But there's probably, I don't know, 5 or 6 times where I like really had to just almost like set it aside and okay, I gotta keep going. I'm not gonna think about that right now,
Right.
but hopefully it'll
Makes
clear up
sense.
later.
Yeah.
But yeah, overall I liked it. The ending, uh, I wasn't sure, and maybe I missed something, but the ending what wasn't quite what I was thinking.
Yeah.
And maybe they're gonna make another one. Hopefully they do, but
Yeah. There'll definitely be another season. I
yeah.
think the ending for me, I'll be honest, I like outright hated it.
Yeah.
Like
Okay. Good.
I
Good.
yeah, I
Good.
did not
I didn't either.
like the
Yeah.
ending at
Yeah.
all. Which is really sad because this was one of my most
For
anticipated
sure. And the potential for
releases.
like the freaking most badass ending was right there, dude.
I know. I'm
Like it
like,
was
dude,
right there.
like
Yeah.
if she had had a big fight with the queen or
Yep.
something, like that would have been so cool.
For sure.
But
Totally.
this whole like M. Night Shyamalan
Yeah.
twist where she's been the queen the whole time,
Yep.
it's kind of like, fuck you a little bit. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like,
Yeah.
I'm
It was
just like,
weird, dude. It was
I'm like,
weird.
dude, I feel like, and like that could have been cool, but I feel
Yeah.
like it just wasn't set up. Like there was
Nope.
no,
I totally agree.
like as far as I can remember, there was no foreshadowing
None.
for when it's revealed that she's been the queen the whole time. It's like, wait, did you just come up with that at the
Yeah.
end?
Yeah.
Because like I
Yeah.
feel like you got to the end and you didn't know what to do next, and
For
you're like,
sure. And you're like,
surprise, she's been the
yeah.
queen the whole
Like a
time.
weird ass twist, dude.
Yeah, and I was kind of like fuck you, man. Like
Yeah.
that's not what I wanted for her character, and it's kind of hinted at the end there that Hope is kind of the new
Mm-hmm.
Darcy, and that
Yeah.
she will kind of be taking up that mantle, and that her and Darcy are gonna come like head to head eventually. And it's like, okay, I guess, I don't know. I don't.
Yeah, it was weird, dude.
Yeah,
But
I
when I think about everything up and to the point where she like goes to that cave where the queen supposedly is, like before
yeah,
the whole time skip thing,
yeah,
everything behind that point I feel like was solid.
yeah,
Great story, great build up.
yeah.
You got to get the token, to go to the
Fight the
queen and
queen.
beat her with this thing that you spent so much time getting and only you can hold
Yeah,
because it's a
yep.
dagger that only you can hold. And you take it to this fucking queen, and then M. Night Shyamalan.
Yeah, dude. Yeah, man. I was so
Yeah, it was
bummed.
weird, dude. The time skip, I remember you texting me and you were like, what the fuck? Was this all a dream? Like, holy
Yeah,
shit. And I
I
thought the same thing at first, and I was like, dude, no, something's gotta be going on else here. But I was like, could
yeah,
you imagine if they just ran with that and it was
dude.
just whoa, like
I
that would
don't
have been weird.
I don't know if I would have liked that
I don't think
more.
I would have. Yeah.
Like
Or well, I guess more than maybe that. It would have
more
been
than what
weird
we
either
got.
way. Yeah.
Yeah, like I'm like, oh man, I'm like, because when that was happening, I thought that she had legitimately gone back in time.
Yeah. Yep.
And so because it just kept going on, and I'm like, oh, maybe
You're
she's
like,
just
yeah,
here
this is
now.
more than a normal little
Yeah,
time skip would be for sure.
yeah. And so I'm like, I could see some interesting things happening with that, because now she's back in the past
Yep.
and she's like going on dates with Felix, so they're like in the same like group again.
Yeah.
And like maybe now she could go into the world back in the past and hunt these vampires like with Jep or something. I'm like, that might be kind of cool.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I was like, I don't know, I kind of liked, what was happening in the Eternal Winter time
Yeah,
period.
for real. Yeah,
And
it's much cooler
yeah,
than day-to-day life in England
yeah, exactly.
or France, wherever they were.
Yeah, and so I was just like, when that happened, so for me, that whole rewind,
Mhm.
I loved that.
Yeah.
That was when I texted you and I was like,
Yeah,
this
you're like,
is
no
fucking
way. Yeah, this is
crazy.
cool.
This is
Yeah.
awesome. But I don't know if I would have liked it if it had stayed there.
Continue with it.
But I
Yeah.
also don't know that I like what we got after it. So
Yeah.
I'm not
Yeah.
sure. But yeah, I loved when she goes back and we see the meteor. So basically, the way I understood it was her going back is what the world would have been if there was never like the queen directly calling the meteor to
Yep.
Earth, and if Darcy hadn't been like the reincarnation of the
Yeah.
queen. And so, we see the meteor kind of pass, and I loved this moment with Darcy and Felix where she just like meets him at a cafe, and then
Yeah.
they later
was
on in the
cool.
night they like go on a date, and they're kind of just like walking around and doing stuff and
Yep.
talking, and you can tell that she's just like really into him, and she kisses him and stuff. I'm like, dude, I want more of this. Like,
Yeah.
I
Give me
love,
more of this, dude.
yeah,
Yeah.
I'm like, I love the two of them together. And then, the book gives us that, and it even gives us that earlier on in the book when they're like together and they go on the date, like on the beach or whatever, and they're
Yep.
having like a really good day. And then she fucking leaves.
Yeah. With
Uh,
with a note. Like, fuck
Yeah.
you, dude.
I was like, God damn it, Darcy. Like, really, this whole book, I just did not like Darcy that much.
Yeah, I didn't pay a whole lot of attention to Darcy. I was much more like, I think Lydia and Penelope was my favorite two
Yeah, for
characters to
sure.
track. I think
Definitely.
that's where most of my enjoyment came from, was those two.
Yeah, I would definitely agree. I think most of my enjoyment came from them. And I wonder if this book was trying to make you not like Darcy, because by the time you get to the end, she's
True
basically the
that.
villain.
True that.
So I don't know, but I just didn't like that whole, like, I just didn't like the way Darcy was acting in this book. I feel like, her and Felix had just gotten together and they were doing so well. And then she like treats him like a doormat the whole rest of the
Yeah.
book.
Yeah.
And then at the end, she's just like, she's basically going super villain. And,
Yeah.
and he's like, I'll come with you, like loyal to the
Just
end.
loyal to the end, exactly.
Yeah.
Utterly faithful.
And she's like, no, you're going to stay here with Hope. And she's like, you can't come with me. And it's just
Bitch.
like, then why the fuck did you build
Yeah.
up this whole relationship that I cared so much about?
Only to
Because
burn it to the
now,
ground.
yeah, because I'm like, now Hope is going to have to kill her.
Yeah.
Or they're going to have to, or maybe Darcy is going to have to come around in some way. But, there, prior to a few hours ago, I didn't really understand the ending. And so I got a hold of Jim from Fantasy for the Ages, because he said he really liked the ending.
Yeah.
And basically, I was like, okay, so I don't know if I just like don't get it. So can you explain it to me? And basically what he was saying was the queen was around like 1,000 years ago. And way back in the past, she did a ritual that made it so that 1,000 years in the future, a meteor would come down and it would allow vampires to roam the planet freely. But she died. But before she died, she created a spell that would allow her to be reincarnated into someone that would be alive at the same time that the impact winter happens. And so Darcy, when she was born, she was already the queen, but she was living a normal human life. She didn't know who she was.
Yep.
But when she gets the dagger and like touches it to herself, it like awakens the queen's spirit and she becomes that person again.
Yeah.
So the sad part about it is she's not even like, it's not like she's possessed and they need to
No.
get the queen out of her.
She literally just is the queen.
She is the queen and
Yeah.
she has always, so there is no,
Yeah.
I don't know, man. And like even she even says at the end there, I think it's like Hope or Felix or somebody like, wait, no, you have to help us save humanity.
Yeah.
And she's like, I already have saved humanity. And it's like, well, fuck you then.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
yeah, is that what you think
Yep.
this is?
Yikes.
So I guess at the end of the day, I'm just so bummed that like this main character that I really, really liked
Is now the
is-
arch villain.
yeah, is now the villain. And there's probably, I don't know, unless they pull some sort of hat trick in the third book or in the third production, like I don't know if there is any redemption for her. Like I don't know if she can fundamentally be redeemed
Yeah.
given who she is.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah.
that's
Rough.
my 2 cents about the ending. I know we got to get out of here, but there's a couple moments that I want to mention here,
Let's
and
do
if you see any that you want to talk about, I'll just
Yeah, I do. I have one that I want to talk about.
Yeah,
Fucking
go for it.
Whisper dies, dude.
Yes, dude.
Oh my god, I was so fucking like almost crying, dude. Like I
Oh,
was
I
like really,
know.
truly, really sad about that. I was like, that was fucked up. And honestly, I think I got so emotional that I forget. I know she was beheaded, but like I can't remember by who.
Oh, it's one of the mercenaries.
Okay,
Like they
yeah.
got the jump on her.
Yep.
And because
just
she was
fucking,
trying to
dude.
I think she was trying to get Felix out of there.
Yeah.
And like she was trying to, like they were kind of like surrounded, like the mercenaries were coming in and she was focusing on him, trying to protect him, and somebody came up and like beheaded her.
Dude.
And
that was so sad.
dude,
So
they
sad.
like had her head in like a bag and shit and took it back, and it was
Yep.
just her body laying
Ugh.
there. Oh my god, dude. That was
fucked up.
That was tough. And on top of that, before that though, we get Whisper's backstory.
Yeah.
And I thought this was super cool because she worked at a brothel for Calistrata.
Yep.
But she wasn't like one of the prostitutes.
No,
she
was... she cleaned and like swept and like did stuff like that, right? Like little, tedious tasks.
Yeah, exactly. And she was terrified of Calistrata, and she would call her up to her room and like do things to her, and because she would use like her vampire powers to control her.
Yeah.
And then finally one night Calistrata called her up to her room and she like bit and killed her, and she asked Whisper what she would do differently if given a second chance. And Whisper says, I would be stronger, more like you. And so then she's turned into a vampire, and she shows up to her family's home, and she kills the father that beat her, the mother that let him, the brother she hated, as well as the brother that she loved.
Yep.
And I'm like, God, that's such a good backstory.
Dude, yeah.
Like that's such a cool like origin story. And then I love this quote from her. She was like, she was talking about like how completely different she was and how she could move so quickly and everything. And she's like, I was deadly as a switchblade and quiet as a whisper.
Yes.
And that's how she got her name.
Oh, I love
it,
dude.
Oh, that's so cool.
So cool.
That's so cool. Oh, I love it. I love it so much. And then we get not necessarily Lydia's backstory, but we get this moment where Penelope, she needs to find Darcy, and Lydia is from California. And apparently what happened was, I forget who the big bad was out there. It might have even been Calistrata, but yeah, I think it was Calistrata. She would do things to her human. She had like basically human
A herd.
cattle.
Yeah, it was cattle. Yeah.
And she would like take them up to a room and like put plastic down everywhere and do like horrible, like torturous things to them, and then like wipe their memory. And so over and over and over, they would get their memory wiped.
Yep.
And then by the end of it, Darcy kind of came in and like saved everybody, but they were all so traumatized. And Darcy basically asked, like, do you want me to wipe your memory and like take all of this away and you can just live a normal life? And she said yes. And so Darcy does that. Lydia goes up to the castle. She makes her way up to the castle. And they mention it at the beginning of the book. She's Hope tells her, she's like, so for you, like, you didn't even know the world had ended because your memory has gotten wiped so many times. Like, you don't know any different from what the world used to be. And it was just kind of an interesting thing, thinking about this person who has not only no recollection of what the world used to be, but during this time where she was basically in a concentration camp for humans, like, she has no memory of that. But Penelope needs to find Darcy, and Lydia wants to find Hope. And so she's like, okay, well, open up my memories. And she does it, and it's just a tidal wave of pain and misery. And I love that. I love the whole, you were saying that Lydia and Penelope were your two favorite to follow. I think that I would agree with that, because they're just like at odds. And they show up to this guy's house. And
what was his name? He had a weird nickname.
Yeah, it was Kilgore.
Kilgore. Kilgore.
Yeah. And they who ends up actually being like an ancient vampire in disguise. And Lydia's like basically like outing her in the middle of dinner. She's like saying all this like very hinty stuff towards her being a vampire, being sketchy. And so they're kind of butting heads the whole way, and finally it gets to this point where they're on this bridge and they're going head to head, like they're yelling at each other. And what happens? I think Lydia pulls out her crossbow or something, right?
Yeah, so I don't think she pulls out her crossbow. I think that she's just started talking so much shit, and Penelope just snapped and pushed her. And in Penelope's mind, she's like, I only meant just to scare her a little bit, like just knock her off her guard, but she pushed her off a fucking cliff. 30 meters, so that's 660 feet.
Oh my
or
God.
120 feet. Yeah.
Wow.
Some crazy shit. And then of course she's instantly like, oh my God, what did I do? Like, holy shit, Lydia, hold on. She goes down there, and that's when she turns her, I think, right? Because she has to save her.
Yeah, she turns Lydia. And during this moment, I wish I had saved the audio of it, but during this moment, that's when California Dreamin' comes on. And like, dude, I love this moment where you just hear like Penelope is like talking to her. She's like, oh my God, she's still alive. And she's like, okay, like
she's like, don't move.
Yeah, she's like, I have to turn you. And she like starts doing it. And then you just hear, all the leaves are brown, all the leaves are brown, and the sky is gray. Oh, it's such a good moment, dude. Oh, I loved it. I loved it so much.
Yeah, shit's awesome.
Oh, it's just the perfect moment for that song to kick in, because Lydia's from California. And in this moment, like the worst moment in her entire life, where she is dying and she has to become a vampire, it's just this moment where what the song kind of alludes to is, during this really painful moment, Lydia is thinking back to like her childhood in California or something, or at least that's what I got from it.
Good memory, something fond that she remembers.
Yeah. And I think that's how powerful these songs are in this
context.
Yeah, like in the context of this audio production. That's what songs can do, because otherwise, if that song hadn't played, you would think, okay, now she's getting turned into a vampire. But because California Dreamin' came on at that time, you can picture Lydia like
Dreaming of
trying to
California.
escape
Yeah.
and just thinking back to like California and the time she spent there.
Yep.
And I just fucking excellent,
Dude, yeah.
fucking excellent. So I love that. Rook later on fights off a swarm of vampires. We don't know if he's dead because we
Yeah.
haven't seen a body. So there's always the opportunity for him to come back later. But did you have any particular feelings about Rook kind of jumping down from the helicopter and like, leave me behind and that kind of thing?
Yeah, I mean, that was your typical, you know, I'll take one
Yeah.
for the team thing. I thought
Right.
it was appropriate for his character. I think Rook cares about Darcy a lot.
Yeah.
Hence Hope, and I'm sure he even cares about his ex that was there. What was her name again? Do you remember?
I can't remember the
That's okay.
she was like French or something, right?
Yep, yep.
Yeah.
But yeah, when he did that, I was glad that he did, because
Yeah.
otherwise Hope wouldn't be around. At
Right.
least so far as we think. But I bet you he's alive. I think Rook's pretty fucking badass.
Yeah, I think that he probably gets out of there
Yeah.
somehow. And yeah, I hope he's still alive because I do like Rook. There's been times where I haven't liked him as much.
Yeah.
But then there's other times where I like him a lot. Kind of some like rapid fire real quick
Mhm.
is when we get the blighter at the beginning that takes Hope,
Yeah.
and the sound, the dynamic sound,
Yeah.
it was so cool because you hear him and his voice is coming from far away, and his voice gets closer as his footsteps get closer.
Yep.
And you hear it by the sound intensifying and them moving the sound kind of from one ear to the other.
Yep.
And then he like jumps down off of a little ledge, and you can hear him kind of drop down from this thing into like a like possibly like a more depth of snow, because you
Yep.
hear the kind of
Yep.
go down into the snow, and then him kind of like wading through it.
And isn't he like also like kind of talking to himself or to Hope, like saying, "Oh,"
Yeah.
and he's got a great voice, dude. The voice
Yeah.
was like super
Deep and
yep,
gravelly
kind of
and
sketchy. Like
yeah.
that voice would scare me if I heard him chuckling and laughing to himself and talking about how he's gonna kidnap me, you know?
Yeah, definitely. And yeah, like his voice kind of moving with the sound of his footsteps.
Yeah.
I could picture it so well. And
Yep.
I think that it's such a credit to the people that do the sound design for this. The last quote that I have here is when Lydia, Penelope's leaving and Lydia's like, "I'm going with you," and she's like, "No, you're not." And Lydia reminds her that like, you just fucked with my mind big time to get
Yeah.
the information you need. And I just love what she says here. She's like, "I gutted myself to help you find what you're looking for. You owe me.
Yep.
You owe me." And dude, I think the actress like performed that line so well. Like
Yeah.
I literally rewound that because I'm like, dude, she
Holy shit, it gave
delivered.
me goosebumps, dude.
Oh, dude.
Yeah.
She delivered that line so well. "I gutted myself to help you
Yep.
find what you're looking for." Like, oh man, it's
Yeah.
so good, Gabe. It's
And
so
Penelope
good.
was like, "Fuck, she's right. She
She's
totally
right.
did. Come on, let's go."
Oh,
Yeah.
so good. And yeah, we talked about the ending. Hope is kind of revealed to be the one prophesied, not Darcy, and I kind of rolled my eyes. I was like, okay, so next we'll find out that Lydia is actually the one prophesied and it's not Hope. I'm just kind of like, man, I just really hope they knock it out of the park with number 3.
Me too.
Yeah, because I think that they can turn it around. I think they
Oh,
can
totally.
bring me back.
Yep.
But that ending, the ending disappointed me, but everything before that I was
Yeah.
totally on board for. And I think overall it was a good experience, but it's kind of a bummer that that ending left a little bit of a bad taste in my mouth. So I guess, yeah, for final thoughts, I'm excited for the next one. I will be hesitantly optimistic.
There you go. Yep.
And you know, hoping that they kind of bring me back around on this, and they have some good storytelling in the future, because we know they can write. We know that they can
Oh, for
make
sure.
a good
They can
story.
perform absolutely
Yeah.
in all aspects.
So so yeah, man. Anything else you got before we hit the outro here?
No, I think I'm set. I said all I needed to, and I would agree. I'm hesitantly excited,
Optimistic.
optimistic, excited for the next one. I really, really hope that because I want so badly to love everything about this series. Like
Yeah.
I want it so bad.
Yeah.
So like you said, put a little bit of a bad taste in my mouth, but overall it was awesome.
Yeah. I agree. All right, guys. Well, we are going to wrap it up there. You can find us over on Twitter and Discord by following the links in the description, and of course, our Patreon down there as well. If you enjoy this content, then liking and subscribing helps us out a lot, and also commenting and telling us what you'd like to see next, because you may not know this, but I am not an infinite bucket of ideas. I've actually kind of been running out of ideas lately, and I've been trying to dig and find things for us to read. So if there's anything that you would like to see, or any topics that you would like to see us discuss, or maybe any like booktubers that you would like to have us try to reach out to, I can't guarantee that you know, guests will say yes to come on the podcast, but if there's anything that you guys would like to see, we would very much like that input, because our well is running just a little bit dry. we have a few things that are upcoming, but I don't want to make every single week a Dresden Files episode. So definitely let us know. But thank you so much for hanging out with us while we talk about Impact Winter by Travis Beacham. I hope you had fun, and until next time, I will be trying to find ways to turn Gabe into a vampire. So that's my mission for the next little while.
I would do it.
Have a good night or a good day or whatever it is, wherever you're watching. Thank you. Goodbye. Gabe as a vampire would be... I don't even want to know.
Yeah, that would be weird.
I feel like you would be like almost like a pacifist vampire.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I would.
Do you think?
No,
you
I
could,
totally would, dude.
I think I
would.
You could do it.
I don't think I could eat people.
Okay.
I think if once I got crazy enough, I think I could probably kill a deer. Maybe.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah, I wouldn't make a good vampire, dude.
Oh, dude.
Not at all.
Yeah. I'd be slaughtering buildings full of
I know you
people.
would have, dude. Yep, totally.
I would just be flitting through there, getting all my...
Oh, that's awesome. You could be like my attack dog. You could be my own little personal terrorist.
I'll just open somebody up, put it in a cup, and like bring it to you, and so you don't really have to think about it. You can just
and you just gleefully bring thousands. Oh, that's awesome.
You don't have to deal with like the guilt of it.
Yeah. Oh, dude, that's awesome.
We'd make a great team.
We'd make a great team, I agree.
And a big shout out to our first Night Angel tier patron, Shad Zaman. Thank you so much, man.